Hello everyone, I'm Rich Lamont. Welcome back to my fly tying channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. So I put this channel together to share my love of salmon flies and fly tying. There's a little bit of something for everybody here. I do showcase a lot of, very artsy, very specific, hard to tie salmon flies, but I also do tie a lot of Pacific Northwest patterns, spay flies, D flies, things like that. So if you've got any flies that you'd like to see tied, something that you'd like to learn a little bit more about, by all means, please reach out to me, leave a message, comment in my videos, just leave a request. I'm happy to get to them. All that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Let's get on with it. Alright, so here we are. Let's start strapping some materials to the hook. So I'm going to start with some extra small Vivus oval tinsel. The recipe calls for silver tinsel. It doesn't specify if it's flat or not. Typically, if a recipe in a book like Price Tannett's book, or those typically, if it says just silver tinsel, it's likely meant to be flat, not oval. Usually they specify oval, but I'm going to use oval anyway just because I think it's going to look good. The hook I'm tying on is a size 7/0 William Bartlett from Byron Bjerke. Absolutely beautiful hook. Here's his card real quick and his information. If you guys are interested in getting some of his hooks, reach out to him and he'll take good care of you. Now, as you can see right here, this is where the gut has stopped and kind of left a little indentation, so that's where I'm going to start the tinsel. It's right in there, and that little indentation should get filled right in by that. And then we'll just do touching turns as far up as we choose to have the tag. Okay, so the next is the tail, which has a Indian crow veiling. I'm just measuring out the tail length and trying to get the right fiber length on it. I think that looks great. It's typically about 1.5 times the size of the hook gap. This was probably close to 2. I'll just cut that back a little bit more. And again, typically these flies, the the tail used is, if it's a fishing fly, the tail typically used would be a crest feather that actually fits the fly. It wouldn't be such a long crest. But in this case, this is going to be an exhibition fly. It's a modern take on the Jock Scott, and this one will be going into a frame. It will not be fished. So I'm choosing to go with the longer tail and actually use a excuse me, I'm going with a longer crest. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this white thread is fraying. And this is a brand new spool. The other spool I had that was fraying I got rid of because it was fraying so bad. I've tried different bobbins with this spool, and no matter what I do, it still frays. So, I don't know. I was told that white thread has a tendency to fray more than anything. I'm not sure why that is, though, if it's that they bleach the thread to get the color, or I don't know, if it's just more brittle. I just don't know. Alright, and the tail veiling is an Indian crow feather. This one might be a little small. This takes a little bit of work on the racus. Now what I've done with it is I've twisted it a little bit so it rolls, so it'll actually sit straight, but it's hard to get these stems to line right up perfectly so that you have the Indian crow resting directly on top of that GP crest. But if you take the stem and twist it just a little bit right at the tying point in the direction that you want the feather to sit, that little twist or bend will help that crow feather sit nice and straight. Takes a little bit of finagling, but it's doable. I'm going to do the butt real quick. Black ostrich herl. A nice fine herl. Okay, so once you've got your herl, you want to look at it and make sure that the stem of it is facing down when you tie it in. And then pull it forward, up, and then you can start wrapping it. Doing it in that order will align the feather barbs on the herl. So that way the feather barbs are facing back and the stem is facing forward. That'll give you the best look for your butt. Tie it off and then trim this. Okay, so the body on this is split. It's supposed to be 50-50 yellow and black, but being a 50-50 split on the body, what you really want to do is a 60-40, or actually 40-60. You want to make the rear segment a little bit shorter because the front segment's going to have the throat, it's going to have the wing, it's going to have sides and cheeks, and all of that's going to cover some of that front body segment. So to give this a 50-50 look, you want to have a smaller rear segment than you do a front segment, and then in the end it'll actually look like it's 50-50. So this rear section is yellow floss, and I am using silk Japanese silk, and it's the Kyoto brand. And the tinsel is a small oval. So we'll do a small oval, about 5 turns of that in the yellow segment. And then the yellow segment is veiled by 6 toucan feathers. Instructions actually say 6 or more. As I said in my previous video, toucan is very thin, so layering it actually gives it a better look and you're able to see it much more. So I'm likely going to wind up using between 6 and 8 pieces of toucan. Now the look that you would get from 6 or 8 pieces of toucan, you can actually get from one piece. It's 3 to 4 on top, 3 to 4 on bottom. So you can get the same look from the yellow CDC that I showed. 1 on bottom, 1 on top, and that would suffice plenty. Okay, so now I've got our yellow silk. We'll tie that in. Now for those of you that are tradesmen or work with your hands a lot and have rough hands, there's a couple things you can do to help smooth out your silk and not rough it up with your hands so bad. One is moisturize. Moisturize your hands constantly. The other is to use the bobbin method, where you wrap all of this onto a bobbin spool and then use that bobbin to lay down your silk. The other option is a pair of silk gloves. I do have a pair of them. It's just I've been out of work for so long that my hands are relatively smooth, so I can just kind of do this. But the silk gloves really do help quite a bit, and they're not that expensive. You can find them on Amazon. I think I paid somewhere like $20 or $25 for mine, so. We wrap back to the butt, and then we work our way forward again. Now you notice I'm using white thread at the moment. I'm going to be switching over to black thread here after this. Black thread will show through the yellow. The yellow is just so light and thin. So using black thread on yellow body segments is not necessarily a great thing to do, though I have done it. Display flies, it's a little easier to get away with it, but if you're going to be doing a fishing fly, the black will show right through the yellow as soon as it hits the water. Here's our yellow floss. What we'll do now is just do a quick burnish, smooth that out. Already pretty smooth, but and we'll pull up our tinsel. Tie that off. Now we'll get our toucan veilings. First I want to make sure these are the right size. Yes. Alright, first for the top, what I'm doing is I'm stacking all of them. I'm hoping this is going to work. I'm not 100% sure on that, but as we know, the fewer thread wraps we use, the better. Let's try maybe 2 at a time. This is Swanson's toucan, by the way, instead of aerial toucan. Just because it's a little bit brighter, the yellow is a bit darker, and I think it'll look better. I have that overhanging the butt quite a bit. I think I'm going to shorten that up. Bear with me. That's better. It should overhang the butt, however, not nearly as much as it was. Excuse me. Now the underside. Okay, and we'll just do these two at a time. That seemed to work out better. Much better. There we are. I'm all laying down nice now. Good. Okay. And then we have another butt. And we just do this one the same as before. I'll tie that one off. Okay, so the next body segment, like I said, is going to be black. But this has two different tinsels in it. The tire has the choice, based on the instructions in Price 10, its book. The tire can either use just oval, or you can use, or excuse me, just twist, or you can use a flat tinsel with the twist around that. I'm opting for flat tinsel and large oval because the twist I have is just not big enough. I could make my own twist, but I want to leave some room for the body to be seen. So I'm just going to do flat and some large oval. Let's see. I'm actually going to make some twist. Why not? That's fun. So to make the twist, I'm going to use a medium oval tinsel from Vivas. And what we'll do is we'll cut off a section, give or take 18 inches or so. And then we'll take one end, we'll take the two ends rather, and tie them together. Just make a knot. Once you make a knot, you should have basically a giant loop like this. And you'll take the knotted end, and I'm going to put it into, I have just a small little Super 2 vise. Nothing special, it's just a regular beginner's vise. I'll stick that in there, and I'll use my twister. Once that's twisted up enough, you fold it again in the middle. I actually don't know if that's going to be long enough. Yeah, that might be. Right. And we'll just leave that twisted up in that other vise for the moment. Once I'm ready to tie it in, I'm going to use it. Alright, so first we'll start with the flat tinsel, which for this I'm going to use Garren, flat large tinsel. we'll take the large. We'll tie that far underneath, like so. Okay, now that oval that we made, the twist, what we'll do with that is the ends that you made here, these, we're going to snip them off. And then just kind of strip the ends a little bit and just start pulling that apart a little. That'll thin out the ends and kind of expose that softer core. And then you can tie that in and not have as big a lump under there. And then the hackle is black saddle hackle. So I need to find one first that's just the right length. The right length barbs. I think I like this one. And then we'll tie that one in. Get these up out of the way. And you want that right up against that twist. And when you wrap it, it'll ride right along it. Okay, now we're at the front of the fly, and what I'm going to do now, because there's a lot more black that's on there, I'm going to spool up some black thread or some black silk onto a bobbin spool. And then I'm going to use a bobbin to do the rest of the floss. So give me, well, for you it'll be seconds, but for me it'll be a couple of minutes. I'll be right back. Okay. All spooled up. Alright, all spooled up. And what we'll do is just tie in over the white thread. And then we'll just clip away that thread. I'll go ahead with our black silk. And again, just like before, we'll wrap this all the way back. Another important tip, by the way, if you decide to do your silk by hand, is to make sure your hands are washed. Make sure there's no oils or anything that are on them. That'll help ensure that the color stays nice and okay. Now we're going to use black thread. And we'll do the same thing with the black silk that we did when we tied it in, and we'll just take the thread. So I'm going to go a little bit farther. And tie in. Okay. Quick burnish. Now we'll start with the flat tinsel. Then the twist. Boy, that twist is thick, huh? We're going to get one shot at this. So we'll cut off the excess. Try and pick it out a little bit if we can, like we did when we tied in. And then we'll take the black hackle. Tie that in right along that twist. Any excess that you can. Tie that back a bit, and now the throat is speckled guinea. So, got some here. Let's see on length. I like it. So just like anything else, we'll remove the fluff off the base. We don't need that. Make it easier to tie off as well. And then we'll go up and tie in at the tip. Okay, and then we'll wrap, and as we wrap, we'll just keep pulling these fibers back parallel to the hook shank. You don't want any of the fibers to be twisting or overlapping as you're wrapping it. You want it all to sit nice and flat and pulled back. And we can fold these down. Pull them back a bit. Okay, now we can neaten up that a little bit more in the end once we've got the wing and everything on. Now this will conclude video 1 of the Jock Scott. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. You know, that'll help me out, that helps out the channel, and it also will give you the opportunity to be one of the first ones to see my new videos whenever they do come up. So all that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you guys in part 2. Take care. Okay, welcome back to video 2 of the Jock Scott. You guys might notice from the previous video, the throat is a little bit thicker. I did go ahead and add another guinea fowl feather. And really quick, I wanted to show you something. I'll try to move in here a little bit if I can. You see on the bottom of the throat, there's just a couple of fibers here, right here. These just a couple of fibers that are slightly longer than the rest. I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. those are kind of creating, I don't know, what I would consider an uneven look for the fly. So let's back this up and get a nice good view of this. Apologies for the shakiness. Okay. So we're just going to do this one fiber at a time. Now, if your throat's a little bit kind of splayed out and not quite packed together like this, the way you'd like it, what I like to do is I take just a tiny little bit of dubbing wax. Sorry for the shakiness, by the way. A little adjustment to my medications. So you just take a little bit of the wax and just rub it on on your fingers, and just get your fingers so they're just a little bit tacky. And then go ahead and roll your fingers in there. And that'll give you a nice packed together throat. You can play with that a little bit later. Give that a chance to just kind of set for a bit. Work on the rest of the fly, and then you can actually go through and preen it a little bit more. It'll stay a little bit packed, but it won't have this, you know, wet, glued together look. You'll see in the end. Okay, so having said all of that, remove this guy here. We're going to go ahead and start with the upper half, and starting with the underwing. Now, the underwing is white-tipped turkey, so I've got some here, and what I'm going to use is this chunk here. But if you'll notice, it's angled differently. So what we can do is actually take a feather with similar coloring, similar barring, and have the white be the same. Now this would normally be the back, and the other one would normally be the front. But we're going to reverse them. We're going to flip them. So if we flip them, you'll see you get more of an angle on this end, and then you can extend that a little bit. And I'll show you here. There's one other thing that you can do, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so this would be, as I said, normally the back side, but this will now become the front. And as you can see, it's got the angle like we like. But now, if you wanted to use this as the back side, what you can do is hold your fingers here. Boy, I'm really shaky today. And then grab the end and rotate towards the left, and kind of let that rotation come through on this side. And then do it again. And again. And one more time. And now you have a nice angle on that. You can see now we can use that as our rear. I'll go ahead and do the same thing with the front. So if this is going to be the front, angled the wrong way, just rotate, rotate, and rotate a little more. And there we go. So I'm actually going to stick with that and tie these in just like that. Now you really want to try to find two feathers that will give you the exact same white barring. And as you can see, these are extremely close. Slightly off, but if we shift that back a little bit, they're almost dead even now. And tips are even. Coloring is good. The only thing I see is the rear has slightly more fibers. Only by 1 or 2, so I'm just going to leave it. And we're going to tie this in so that way the white tips are about at the end of the Indian crow. Probably could have used a slightly larger section, but let's see how that lines up with the wing. And that'll make the wing short. When you tie these in, you want to have the wing and the underwing line up on the tips over here. You don't want to have it like this. That's a bit off. You want to have it so it lines up just like that. So it would seem I don't have white tip turkey that was long enough. Let me have a look-see through my other stock and be right back with you.